All right, ladies and gentlemen, Lady Cat's in the dark, and I'm even though there's not much light in my room, my room is a lot better lit than hers. Um, Last night we went off in a different direction than what we're accustomed to, what we generally do here on this live stream, and we're thinking about veering off and doing this on a semi-regular basis, maybe breaking up certain nights that'll be for the tarot card reading, spirit box, whatnot, and then other nights for this missing persons, unsolved murders. I have for some time run a Facebook page, and I will give you the name of that page. I can't remember the name of it, and it's called Alabama Cold Case and Missing People. So I've already been on this subject, which I find fascinating. But last night, one of our watchers turned us on to this Summer Wells case. Probably heard of it, just hadn't really tuned into it. Started looking into it. Fascinating case to the point to where we spent the majority of last night's show talking about the Summer Wells case. We're not coming up with answers. We're not. That's not the purpose. What we're doing, because we're not there. We're not the investigators. We're putting together all the facts that seem really legit, not just theories and that sort of thing, and trying to put all this into one place, like right here. And so last night, as we dug into it, we learned a lot, and a lot of what we learned is because of a retired. Dug into it, we learned a lot.
Hold on.
A lot of what we
I'm working on it.
retired.
I was trying to share it.
Okay, so what we got then is a lot of information and a lot of things that it's a fascinating story. And the things that as Kat and I talked about this last night and we watched it, I'd already kind of determined things just looking at the terrain where this house is and following this story. One thing that I caught on to that I haven't heard anybody else talk about, at least what I've run into, and there's a ton of stuff out there, people are talking, but was the way she talked about the 911 issue. So what happened, and we're going to take a tour of the property, the house. Candace, the mother who initiated the 911 call and who was there with the boys and her mother and Summer at the time she disappeared, is giving a tour of her property, stepping through what took place, and then going down in the basement. And you get a real good view of the house. It's where she went, and that sort of thing. And the more you dig, the more suspicion is thrown at it not being some stranger. Let's start there. And somebody, well, anyway, we'll let the story unfold for you as we go through the evening. So this show is a little bit different. And this is Lady Cat's show. I'm not trying to hijack this. It was a guest, and Catherine kind of likes it for me to be here, son. So I'm not trying to steal her show. How this evolves after this is yet to be seen. And part of that's going to be up to those that watch this and if they share their comments and say what they think. Summer Wells, a little over a year ago, came up missing. Was it June 15th? Catherine?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm still sharing everywhere.
Okay. You let me know when you're through so you can focus with me, please.
I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I just can't tell what you're doing. So initially, when I started looking at this, there was some drone footage of the property. The first thing that jumped out at me was the 911 call. Candace Bly Wells, the mother of Summer Wells, when she recognized that the 5-year-old daughter had vanished, she called her husband, Don Wells, who allegedly or supposedly was at work, and said, "Get home, Summer's missing." And Don Wells told her on the phone, go call 911. And Candace Wells says she had to lay her phone down and go to get her mother's phone because her phone would not initiate a 911 call. And that was a red flag to me, because even if you don't have service on a cell phone, if that cell phone's charged, you can call 911. It's just set up that way to protect people. Um, and she was just talking to her husband Don on a phone that she says would not call 911. I don't believe that is even possible. If your phone will dial 911 even if you don't have active service on it. That is my understanding, and that's what I've always heard. So it kind of continued from there. Uh, Last night we watched an interview with a young boy about 15 years old that has spent the day with Summer, Candace, and her mother. Her mother, the grandmother, had some kind of issue with a knee, was in the hospital, and they picked her up. They went to a pharmacy. A lot of interesting things going on that involve going to what is that, CBD? What do they call it?
CBD, a vape store.
Vape store, and giving certain things to this underage kid. I don't know. We're talking about a missing child. Now, I want to interject here that they say, well, if they think the parents did it or somebody else did it, why haven't they brought any charges? Well, the first thing is they've got no evidence as to where this girl is. They just have the parents saying she vanished. They've not found a trace of anything, no body, no physical evidence of a crime having been committed outside of a 5-year-old missing. So it's hard to bring charges under those conditions, and so the investigation is still going, and they're possibly waiting for somebody to trip up and to say something, and that does happen over time. One point in the investigation, it seemed like the Wells, the parents, were being open and at least cooperative with the authorities. And then within a week or two, the Child Protection Services came in and snatched their 3 other children out of the house because of a history of abuse. I don't think it said violence. Do you remember exactly what it said, Kat?
It was history of domestic abuse and violence, I believe.
Okay. So anyway, basically, the understanding, the way it's presented, is that over a period of time, a lot of people, or some people that were aware of the circumstances, had been reporting to the Child Protection Services, you need to investigate this family because these kids, whatever. So finally they did after this girl comes up missing. I want to emphasize, we don't know what the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation knows. We have bits and pieces, and we're trying and only getting information from good sources, not just Reddit and other, places where people are just throwing out wild theories. So we're not going that route. We're trying to put together all the facts that, just like the interview with the young boy that we watched last night, and tonight we're going to play a video of Candace Bly Wells herself giving a tour of the property and a timeline of the events that took place. And this video was done not long after this took place. Let's see, this was 11 months ago, so this was just a lot closer to when this occurred. I'm gonna not go this yet. Wait a minute. Let me find the right one. I pulled up the news thing, and I didn't want to use that one. Where is it? I don't know. You know?
I do have a question and something I want to look into on this case.
Okay.
I noticed that Candace was driving a newer car. I want to know. I'm curious as to looking into that.
Well, I don't understand how that would fit in. I'm confused. What would that? I mean, you tell me. I don't know how would that tie in.
Okay, how would that tie in? She's driving a newer car.
Right.
Uh, they're broke, from what they were saying.
Yeah, that didn't mean that they didn't have debt. But anyway, I'm still that doesn't. We're talking about a 5-year-old missing girl, and nobody's filed for insurance. I'm trying to figure out how you piecing.
Um,
There's a lot of things going on with this family that are unrelated to this missing girl. And what's happening, and a lot of people are getting distracted by things that are not directly related to the missing girl. Just because they had domestic violence in the house does not prove in any way that they did anything with this girl. Just because they had financial issues does not prove in any way they were involved in any criminal activity.
correct.
So so that's why I asked the question: How do you how does this fit together?
If they were having financial hardship, how did they afford that new car?
And how does that fit to this missing girl? That's the point. That's what we're missing here. I'm not being silly, but it's like, okay, that's fine. How did they afford it? But how does that fit in? How does getting rid of a 5-year-old when they got 3 teenage boys that are clearly going to be a lot more expensive to feed than the 5-year-old? I mean, I'm still trying to piece that together. How would it
I mean,
relate?
they're saying I've read sex trafficking. Um, you know, she's a little girl.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that would be where you start out. I mean, but you're there again. I'm trying to stick to bona fide sources instead of just people's talking crap. But when I look at that, um, it's like her girlfriend or a friend, the woman, 20-year-old that got murdered. They already found the guy that did it. And the first thing I do is like, well, it might have been a friend's, and of course, out in the internet gossip world, they're saying there's a lot of death around that couple. Well, I don't know if there's a lot of death. Again, we don't know that this, Summer's dead. There's no way of knowing that she's missing. They've had cadaver dogs all around that property, and I'm sure all through the house. Certain things they've investigated the property. If there had been, they would be able to identify blood stains and all that kind of stuff. And right now they're either building a case on somebody, thinking they've got something, but that river's nearby. Then there's that possibility from that interview last night that she had what's called a dry drowning.
Yes.
That experience that she had in the river, whatever they were swimming in, a hole of some sort. And he questioned that little boy extensively about that. Of course, you're talking about a 15-year-old that didn't know much about it. So anyway, so could it? I mean, you want to come up with all these theories. Could it be that she did die because she had a dry drowning and the parents freaked and disposed of her body, and really they were not guilty of murder? They just are guilty of hiding a body because they were concerned about Child Protective Services already being on their ass. That's a possibility. So if you want to go all those routes, but you can't, you gotta let the facts lead you to
Correct.
the answer. And you can make notes and say, "Ooh," just like I saw yesterday before as we got started. Well, that 911 thing is to me, it's something that should be noted. There were 2 or 3 other things that should be noted. And there may be innocent things that Candace may not be a tech savvy person and wasn't aware of something. I don't know. I wasn't there, didn't do the interviews. I would think that The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, trained, experienced professionals will be, they're digging. They're not just idly sitting by. They've got something in the works. I have to believe. Um, and what they're upset about now is all these conspiracy theories being thrown about is confusing their work because their tip line is loaded with that kind of garbage that really just takes up a lot of time for them to sort through. That anyway.
Yeah.
There's, did you watch the tour of the house?
I watched the short version on the news article.
Did you see the base? Did you see the basement?
That's what I could. That short version of it, I did. Yes.
Okay. This says 7 months later is when he did his walkthrough with her. And I think it's very fascinating that everybody has opened up to this guy because he does not legitimately work with he's retired. So anyway, he does a lot of introductory stuff here that I want to get beyond before we show the tour. And even once we get started, there's a few things that this guy says that I think he's a little bit off kilter with. I forget what it was because I watched a good piece of this, and I thought, well, that's a stretch. What he's saying there.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
If these search and rescue dogs, I'm assuming they started the dogs in the house.
I don't have a clue what they're cadaver dogs.
No, I'm not talking. I'm talking about the search and rescue wild dogs.
I never read that they used search and rescue dogs. I only read they used cadaver dogs.
Well, they said that her scent went down the dog trail.
The only person that has said that is the mother, and pretty much everybody's saying she's a liar. So I don't know. I just know that no reliable source has come out and said, don't, could they have? Sure. I don't know where they would start. But go ahead. Where would you go with that?
I was just curious as was that a fact or was that a rumor?
I don't know if it's even a rumor. It could be just out and out lie or whatever. Because the mother never said there were dogs used for scent. She just said the scent ended there. There's like somebody said that they counted something like 13 freaking dogs on the property. That's not the police dogs. That's just dogs on the property. I have seen in the videos I've watched a total of 6 dogs. There again, the question it raises me is how in the world can anybody do anything on that property without the dogs getting all excited and making some noise? I mean, you've had dogs, right?
Oh yeah, they drive me crazy, but you love them. That's the reason you have dogs.
And the bigger the dog, I mean, these are outdoor dogs, and just watching the way that they dealt with whoever had the camera walking down the dog trail, they followed them all the way down there, and and they were noisy, and it's like, okay, this all happened in a matter of at most minutes, and maybe even very few minutes when she claims that her whole process, and you'll see as she's giving this tour, but the whole process of her saying, first of all, Summer was with her. They'd picked up the grandmother at the hospital. They'd gotten her drugs at the drugstore, the drive-through, and then they went up to their home property. And the whole purpose, I guess, is that they had put a brace on this grandmother at the hospital. And you said that according to the story, she'd been out with them with flowers or something in the yard. And I'm looking at the property saying, where the hell's flowers there? That's a pretty rough looking terrain. It's not conducive to going out there saying, let me pick some pretty flowers. Anyway, I don't know. But anyway, the bottom line is Candace, the mother, and Summer, and the grandmother, my understanding was were all three at the grandmother's camper. She starts out at one point, and Summer wants to go to the house. And so Candace says she stands and walks over and watches her daughter walk into the house, and at the same time is standing in a position where she could see the boys watching TV or whatever. And so once Summer gets in the house, Candace walks up to the window and says, watch sis, I got to take care of grandmother's brace and I'll be right back. And then within that short period of time, she comes back and the daughter's missing. The way she describes that entire thing sounds suspicious to me. And when you walk inside and go through the tour of the house and the terrain of the property, even this investigator that did this interview is saying that he don't believe there's any way this girl disappeared from that basement or the property itself.
Well,
so go ahead.
At one point in time, I heard that the boys were playing hide and go seek coming from the mother.
Well, I never heard her say that. I watched this interview and that they were watching TV, and that's the second or third time I heard her from her say that.
That may have been from the father, and the
father was not there.
Right, and there was a refrigerator.
Yeah, well, the father was not there, according to the entire story. In fact, an interesting thing that we picked up on in the video last night was the while these guys were in the vehicle at the drive-through window at the drugstore, the pharmacy, to get the grandmother's pain medication or whatever, Don, the father, calls Candace, the daughter, on a cell phone with some wild cockamamie story about, oh, look, there's somebody at the property touching kids. Well, what kids, number one, were at the property, and he's supposed to be at work? How would he know? There's just all these pieces to the puzzle. Of course, again, I don't have the answers. I'm not going to propose to have the answers. I just know that this is what is being told by people that were firsthand involved in that day in Summer's life. So it's not rumors from Reddit and other internet armchair YouTube investigators or whatever. This is interviews of people that were with Summer throughout the day, and their testimony are their words saying what happened. And then you have to sort out who's lying, who's not. There's even a video out there claiming that Candace and somebody else is trying to set Don up. Okay. So you got all this crap out there, and you got to sort out what's legit, what's not legit. And the video we're about to watch, even the investigator there says that he didn't believe a lot that Candace said. It didn't add up. So I'll let him tell that story. But I never heard the part that you said about them playing hide and seek. According to the mother, and the mother was the one there, and she said this in more than one statement. And it's even on their website, whoever developed that website for it, where she gave her statement on that website, that the boys were at a table watching TV or something like that. They certainly did not say anything about hide and seek, and that Summer went in the house, and then her room and toys were in the basement, and so she went down the basement supposedly to play with her toys and was never seen again. And there's a lot of questions. Interesting enough, as you're going to see in the video that we're going to play, it's a lengthy video. that when he's filming all the way, he doesn't cut. He's filming Candace, giving him the tour all the way down into the basement. And the first thing you see is he gets down these little bitty steps, very uncomfortable climb down into the basement. There's a big flat screen TV that has porn playing on it. Okay. Porn is not illegal. It didn't say anything about child porn, but it's like this is where the little girl's supposed to be playing down there. And also, you'll see that already the Summers clothes have been removed from where they normally hung. In other words, the whole place was cleaned up, and there was very little remnants left of Summer ever having existed there. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it's wild. It's and like I said, what does TBI, Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, know? They know a lot more than I can find on the internet, I can assure you. Are they developing a case? I would assume that they're trying to figure out what took place. They can't bring charges against anybody, even though they can suspect certain things. They've got to have proof that something took place. They've got to have some evidence to present in court. And that's what we're never going to find in our armchair sleuthing here. And clearly they haven't found it yet, or they would have gotten charges against somebody, I'm sure. The father, Don, is he out of jail yet?
I don't think so.
So he was in jail on an unrelated case. He says that after Summer went missing, that he was so distraught, he started drinking heavily and got a DUI, violated his probation, and ended up in a county jail to serve the 11 months, 29 days, whatever it was. And he wrote a letter, I guess, from the jail, supposedly to Summer, which sounded strange, but whatever. 5-year-old, you're writing a letter to place on a website. Anyway, it made him feel good, whatever. People write letters to people too. So anyway, so what happened? We don't know. We're gathering facts as we can find them here, and I'm not trying to say that I have any answers. I just want to see what facts are out there and separate that from the BS that's out there. Meme Jean says that Don keeps saying she's in a better place. Well, I would say my 5-year-old, now would have been 6, had been missing for this length of time, that I would assume that they're not alive. But I don't know that I could give up hope that easily. Most parents would not give up hope that easily. I would say at this point, it'd be very shocking if a body was found on or near that property at this point. I would say it's probably, they did an initial search. They called it off within about 13 days. The foliage was heavy in the summertime. And then in November, after the foliage had been dead and it was clear, they went back with a heavy presence and they still found nothing. And that was in November of last year. I don't know that they've been back to search there again. I don't know where their investigation is taking them from there. So why didn't Don and Candace look for Summer? They did look for Summer. According to Candace, if you watched and paid attention to legitimate sources, Don and Candace, especially Candace, even as she was waiting on the police, said she got in her mother's car and drove down to the end of the road and so forth, that she looked and didn't find anything. Now, did anybody witness her doing that? I can't say that because I guess the grandmother did. But again, the biggest issue I've got is the 911 thing is the first flag that came to me was, okay, any cell phone, even if it's not got active service, can call 911. She claims in her statement, and it's on their website, and she said it, I guess, before, she gave the police, but that she was talking to her husband Don, saying Summer's missing, come home. And Don says call 911, and she says that she had to go get her mother's phone because her phone wouldn't call 911. I don't think it's legit, because any phone, to my understanding, and this has been that way for a long time, can call 911. You can check it on the internet, research that yourself. But that's the thing, and that's the first thing that jumped out at me as I was getting familiar with this story. But yes, Candace did indeed, according to her statement, she immediately, after calling Don, first of all, she looked around the house. She looked inside the house. She said that she looked under clothes as if the child was hiding under clothes. She looked under the bed. She looked. She says she looked in a very. And you, if you watch this video, that she looked, and she named the places that she looked, and also went and got her mother's truck to drive down their drive and look around from there. So yes, now Don wasn't there. According to her statement, Don showed up at about the exact time that the police showed up. And then at that point, as the police took over, they usually get everybody out of the way so nothing is touched, so they can go about their search without anything or any evidence or anything being disturbed. If the police did their job, and I'm going to go on the assumption they did, and that's just an assumption. Because police are human, they do make mistakes, right?
They do.
Do we want to start this video or not?
Sure, start it.
This is a lengthy video. I'm not starting it at the very beginning simply because Chris McDonough, who did this interview, he does a lot of talking at the beginning of it, and we're just going to jump right into the meat of it, if you will. So stay tuned. We're going to tour the property, a tour given by Candace herself. Okay, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Pay close attention, and he does stop the interview a lot and does a lot of narration with it. Here we go. First thing you notice is those dogs. How are you going to do anything on that property?
The first thing I want to do is go where we would call first contact. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm walking towards the trailer. That would be either the last time someone was outside.
Hey, Kelsey, it's echoing.
Or in there that we have.
I'm sorry?
Or
It's
someone
echoing.
inside. First contact.
Okay, you're going to have to say that again?
It's echoing.
Well, it's not echoing on my end. I don't know what to do.
Okay, I'll remove myself while it's going.
So there you can see the red container. In between looks like a green one and a dark one on the left, but the red one's in the middle. So what do you think? Could that be the same container that's in the back of the truck? Allegedly, you know, that picture. If so, maybe that's the red container. Now, what I wanted to do here is, and at that time, you could see down the road clearly. You could see clearly that a car could pass through there in the back. You could also see where the workers had been working, because they were still there at the time, working on, looks like the power lines of sort. The challenge is, in order for, you know, again, going back to this abduction, which again, I don't buy that theory personally. That's just my opinion. Okay? Because the terrain is too difficult, as well as a whole bunch of other behavioral factors. I still am of the belief, and if this was my investigation, this is how I would proceed, that this is a situation where somebody had access to the property and or familiarity to the parents or the property at the time. This is not a high risk offender, again, coming back in to snatch a 5-year-old little girl out of a basement. Just my opinion. Now, Candace comes up behind me here, and so that's why I turned pretty abruptly with this. There's that red container. You can clearly see it right there. Hey. It's going to come out to the left. Okay. Now the door's open. Now, here's one of the points I want to point out. That was well over, close to 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes. Candace said she lost sight of her, right? Maybe 2 minutes. Well, there you go. We all just experienced her going inside the house, okay, now coming out of the house. And I think, I'm going to have to go back and time it. Maybe somebody can do that after this. And that is how long 2 minutes can be. So one of the things to consider here is she went into the house, okay, probably a minute before me. So I think she's been in there at least 3 to 4 minutes at this point. Okay. Now she's changed her story a couple of times from 2 minutes to 10 minutes to I'm not really sure. I don't keep time. You'll hear her at this time. By this time, she had been grilled whether or not the door was open, whether the door was locked. She's given it both, in both presentations in terms of it's open, it's locked. And then for me, she turns to make it a point, okay, that I'm not really sure if it's opened or locked. Okay? Well, that's a convenience statement, right? That's it. That's an adaptation statement because she's already presented it to the authorities in the beginning of what she recalled it being that day. And it sounds like she wasn't positive or she is positive and now she's adapting because the basement's not in play as a hypothetical. I have much more respect for what you're telling me by standing here. Yeah. And I got my little camera here. But I'm looking at this terrain and I'm going, holy cow, she could have even, what I was going to say to her, but I didn't, she could have even walked away. Now, there's a couple of things that I've been struggling with personally about this house. Okay. One of them is not only this door, you saw that this door closed a minute ago. And then, of course, the basement door that has one-way glass on it, so you can't see in. So these are the only 2 points of entry into this home at this time when Summer goes missing. And what's interesting is Candace goes into that door, this door, and she was in there, as you could tell, for quite some time. And when she comes out, she leaves it wide open. I had not asked her if I could go into the house yet. So I have to ask myself, is this her habit pattern? Is this a baseline for the way she thinks or does things? Is she confused in relationship to whether or not she opens it, when, or locks it when she leaves, or opens it when she leaves? Because she also says in this video, and I'm going to point it out, that the boys were locked in. Okay? Nobody in, nobody out. Okay. And, just in its general appearance, I mean, if you've got 3 children in this environment, it's pretty rough. It's pretty rough. And this is probably only one reason why CPS was all over this. A million possibilities here.
Yeah, there's
down there, and there's the road down there.
Yeah, that's the road. And that's my mom's house.
Okay.
Like literally, it's.
And this right here, that was another good shot of the bin.
Usually you can see the road because they have went through here and mowed and took down a bunch of stuff away from the power lines.
Okay.
But usually it's full up. You can't even see the road.
That day though, how was it? Was it full up, or was it like this?
That day and a few days prior to that, they were working on this.
Okay.
So I've even come to a conclusion maybe one of them people have snatched it.
Oh, interesting. Now that's a really interesting statement, because she says she's come to the conclusion maybe one of those people. So what she's doing is she's processing either how does it fit into the narrative, or is this a possibility if this was at the theory at the still is probably not off the table, but there's not a high probability of a random abduction. Maybe she's thinking, and I don't know. I just know what she's saying. So I'm listening, for every word that's coming out of her mouth, just to think about what are the possibilities. And so what I'm doing is really sincerely listening to what she has to say and how she's adapting to my questioning. And so we're going to hear some, shifting tonight that I think is pretty interesting. Interesting.
Because they were all the way up here.
Yeah, I see those, the path down there. I see the tracks down there.
Yep.
Over there.
And they were all the way up here to my light pole.
Okay. Now, see, that would be a very, very tough scenario, because if all of those workers, if any one of them was involved in this abduction, number one, you're at work on the wire lines. And what are you going to do with a 5-year-old kid? With your other colleagues around you. Okay? So obviously the tree guys, the pole, they're working down there. That would mean you have a team of abductors, because somebody in that group, somebody is going to say, hey, what are you doing with the kid? So that really doesn't make sense. Okay? So I think she's, still trying to process what fits. Okay? What fits. This was early on, remember. Okay. Okay. And you told TBI all this, right?
I told TBI this, yes.
Okay. Okay. And yeah, I can see the cars going by. That is not far from your property.
Mm-mm.
Is there a it's probably about 75 yards. Holler down there? I mean, is there a river of some sort?
The creek runs all the way around my property.
And how deep is a creek? Okay, just so it's like an inch, inch or two. Okay.
You'd be lucky to get wet enough to do anything.
Okay. All right. So let's pick it up from where, and I'm going to just use this little one. Is that
You're
okay?
fine.
Okay, so from where, when you got home, now
No,
she's
My
leaning.
mom's truck parks here.
Okay, your mom's truck's right here.
Yes.
Okay, so when she's leaning against the milk. Is she
Yes.
sleeping?
She was sleeping, yes.
Okay, from exhaustion. Now remember, that is the passenger side. All right, so if her mom's truck is in there, straight in, as she's doing, okay, that means she's got to go around the passenger side. Or if she's on the driver's side, then Summer has to come out that driver door. So let's listen to what she says. From that day?
Yeah, she was. Where I woke her up early, and she usually sleeps until 9, 10, even 12 o'clock if I let her.
Okay. How did the milk bottle? Now, woke her up early. So if we go with the hospital scenario, then grandma's appointment is really important that time. And if it's around the 8:30 mark, thereabouts, various timeline in relationship to that. Still, let's keep that in mind. So let's hypothesize for the sake of this particular piece, that Summer is up 7:30-ish a.m. So she's attributing some of her tiredness to being up early in the morning. Get rearranged. Hunter said he had them on the floor and then he put them next to him.
They weren't.
Is that true?
No.
Okay, so walk me through that.
When we dropped them off, they were actually still on his lap,
Okay.
and he put them on the other side of Summer.
Okay. So he reached over?
Yeah, he set them over there by that. What's a black tote she had in there?
Okay. Was there? Where's? And you see that black tote next to the red one in the back there. That looks like maybe that's the tote in the back of the truck and the tote on the seat in the truck. I don't know, but they sure match the color. That tote at?
I think actually my mom's got it still in her truck. It's got a bunch of crafts and stuff in it.
Okay, got it. And now from when you pulled up, did she just fall asleep next to that?
She fell asleep, I'd say maybe 5 minutes on the road.
Okay. Now that's an interesting statement, because those photographs were taken, I think, about 8 minutes down the road. So that could be a true statement, right? Got it. And then, so walk me through, you get home, you take the groceries inside. Is Don home, by the way?
No, he's
Okay.
not.
Okay, so I tried to throw a knuckleball at her. I presented the groceries, okay? And then I said, I slipped in, was Don home? And she's pretty quick there. She caught that right away.
Actually, I parked the truck, and
Now, whenever somebody says the word actually, okay, they're going to change the narrative.
I opened both doors. It's really hard because this lawnmower is. But I opened the doors up, and I shook her. I said, "Wake up, we're at home." She jumped right up.
Okay.
Like nothing. I unbuckled her, and
now that is also a really interesting statement, because in the truck, we see that Summer is buckled. This was, in my opinion, a true statement. She did unbuckle her. And
I said, "Come on." I said, "Mom, I'll be right back." Went in there, and got the boys.
Now she took a deep breath right there. You see her swallow. Okay. So I'm going to go with this is a 50-50.
And they were sitting at the table. And I said, "Come on, let's get the groceries out." And we brought them all in the house, went through them all, did all that.
Now, here's a question that they pull up, and the boys are in the house at the table. The narrative at this point, obviously, that everybody has heard, is that they're playing games, video games. We've heard YouTube, we've heard, all kinds of video stuff, right? Let's just stay with they're in the house at the table. So at what point does she go into the house, okay, to get them? And at what point or where did Summer go? Let's listen to that one more time. It's really important.
Really hard because this lawnmower is. But I opened the doors up and I shook her. I said, "Wake up, we're at home." She jumped right up
Okay.
like nothing. I unbuckled her and I said, "Come on."
She jumped up, but she unbuckled her, right? So what she meant to say, or what would be the proper sequence, is she unbuckles her and she jumps right up.
I said, "Mom, I'll be right back." Well, went in there and got the boys and they were sitting in that.
Okay, so she swallowed, right? She wasn't sure, in my opinion. Okay? But she goes into the house, okay, and goes into the room, into the kitchen, okay, and gets the boys. Well, where's Summer at this point? Where is Summer at this point? Because she's jumped up and is out of that car now. So Candace is going to have to go into that house or tie the narrative together with Summer.
Table. And I said, "Come on, let's get the groceries out." And we brought them all in the house, went through them all,
And
all that.
and this is her. That's her
That's
swing.
her swing right.
Okay, so you notice she didn't qualify. She just said, "Come on, let's get all the groceries out." And she didn't say that the boys, at this point early on, I know we're nitpicking here, but it's important that the minutia details of these statements and early on could become critical to understand what the truth is, because in there are pieces of the truth. Okay?
Come show me her swing. Why is this? And who's this?
So what I did is I shifted her thought process back to Summer by utilizing her swing as the discussion point.
That is Smoking Boots. That's my boys' cat.
And how many dogs do you have here on the property? About.
Honestly, I don't know because people just keep dropping them off.
Hi. I know. Okay. Okay. Sorry. So this is her swing.
That's her swing.
This is her playground.
Okay, what I was doing here is the same thing we did at the water hole. You'll notice she's not having everything slow down. Okay? So think about that. She was just at the water hole and she was having a moment where, as remember in the last video, if you haven't seen it, go watch it, okay, where everything slowed down, almost like a PTSD response. Okay? But here, she's talking openly as if, yep, there's her swing, there's Smoking Boots, and it's like this just casual conversation, not that it's a traumatic conversation. Okay? That's something to pay attention to, in my opinion.
She loved this area. Boy, I'm looking at this, and this terrain, Candace, just strikes me as being so dense and just. Is that what they say, the dog trail? Where's this dog trail thing? That
I'm not sure, honestly.
there.
So she doesn't know where the dog trail is. She doesn't anyway, at this early stage. Yet, by this time, the dog had allegedly tracked down the dog trail.
So many of them.
The dogs go in every different
Yeah, I
way.
saw the dogs came out of the
Yeah,
woods as we were pulling up.
Yeah,
Okay.
they do that all the time.
Okay.
Now, the next
All right, that's very interesting. Yeah, we're learning stuff here, and I pop back in for a minute to do my own opinions here, but this is 7 months later, and she could not identify where the dog trail is. But if you go to their website, all of a sudden that dog trail is the focus of her attention, but she didn't even know 7 months later where she could point out to this guy where the dog trail is. She's on her property, and she's identifying here that the dogs go in different directions. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
So I'm sure he's going to comment about this too, but it's like 7 months later, but she had already made statements. This dog trail, the scent, and 7 months later, I got a problem with that. I'm sorry. What do you think?
Yeah, she should be able to tell you exactly where the dog trail was.
Yeah, because it's been in the conversation, and all of a sudden, 7 months later, even though somebody walked down this quote unquote dog trail down to the road and said, this is where the scent ended. But yet 7 months later, she can't even say where this dog trail is. Something strange. Very strange.
Very, very strange.
Jeff, you're going to see an emotion in her is the boys had just been taken either the day before. And so she's going to start thinking, and you're going to see her countenance and you're going to see her whole body compress, okay, when she starts thinking about the boys. And so I shift that conversation because I know that was a lot of weight for her that she was, projecting.
That trail right there, my boys, they ride those dirt bikes that are leaning against the truck over there.
Okay.
All right. And this is where I think it's a possibility that the reason the dogs scented Summer down those trails is because the boys ride the motorcycles. And as we all know, there's those TikToks videos of Summer chasing the boys on their motorcycles.
There you go. There you go.
So I believe that it's a real possibility that, yeah, the dogs did scent Summer. But I also think it's a possibility because she constantly would chase the boys on those little mini bikes.
That's
like
the answer.
50cc,
That
mini
fits
bikes.
right there. Just
You
what
can see
he's.
there's one of them.
Okay.
And they
Those
ride
are
on-
like 50 cc's, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, the
that
old-
one ain't. I
the
think
old-
it's only like 25, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, they go down that trail with their dirt bikes and then come back up on the.
See, and she said it. They go down those trails, the dirt bikes, and they come back up over the road. So it's possible that the bloodhounds were tracking Summer correctly, but it's not necessarily as a result of going down to the road from an abductor.
Road up on the driveway and go around and stuff.
What was it about this swing that is just so important for her?
She liked it. She just liked to swing. All the kids did.
Now, I don't want to talk about.
Okay, so now she has a shift. The moment she said all the kids did, okay, she now has an emotional shift.
The boys right now, because I know that's, a tough another part.
And she picks the cat up. I think we can all agree there's some weight going on here, and it could be in response to the boys, and so she's using the cat as comfort, which my heart goes out to her. But it also could be, and by the way, we're all human beings, and people sometimes are just really bad people and evil. I've seen it, trust me. If you haven't seen my interviews with Wesley Dodd, you're underestimating where I'm coming from. Okay? I don't empathize in relationship to what they did. Okay? I empathize in relationship to they are still human, and we should at least have compassion in relationship to trying to find out, is Summer part of their problem? And the only way you get to that is treat people with dignity and respect, whether or not you agree or disagree with what they may have or have not done. At this point, what I know for sure is Summer is missing. I also know for sure at this point with her is her 3 children have been taken away as well. So she's using the cat as comfort. Okay? And you can see her countenance changing.
Part of your heart, okay? And that's none of my business.
Right.
I'm not here for any
It's
of
not,
it.
She doesn't have the skill, in my opinion, to process all of that emotion. Now, does she have the skill to play, i.e., I'll guess your weight for $10 at the carnival? Of course, okay? Of course. Okay? But some of these emotional responses are automatic from her central nervous system, and she can't really figure out how to manipulate those, right? So this is what makes her believable to folks, to a lot of people. Okay? It's because she has this capability, to turn some volume on, turn some volume off. But this type of emotion is locked into the emotional response from something going on up here. Something's going on. And it could be what we call carryover stress from the water hole, okay? Where your stress is, you're still processing now the water hole, the boy's missing, Summer, maybe I did something, maybe this person did something. So there's a lot of things going on here right now. Okay. And I was trying to move her towards this open conversation and keep her folks, in there, right? Street smarts. Yep. It could be street smarts. Yeah, I agree with that, but she's manipulative as a whole.
You know what I mean? I'm not here to judge anybody, right?
right.
I'm here to talk about.
You see when I said that? I'm not here to judge anybody. How did she answer me? All right. Okay. Now, what she underestimates me, okay, is this is not my first rodeo. Okay. And she wasn't even close, because over the time here, I've come back to study this multiple times and caught some things.
Summer
Yep.
and help you find Summer, okay? And help anybody help
Right.
find her, okay? That
Yeah.
message.
Okay, this is a very interesting move from her. This is a defense mechanism. She takes her hat off and she starts, messing with her hair. Watch how many times you see her do this when she's starting to get stuck. I.e., I'm not sure if I'm selling this correctly.
Okay, so you go into the house.
We're going in the house and
Can I follow?
I shift her thought process back into away from Summer into let's talk environment.
Follow you in, or do you comfortable with that? Huh?
I don't know why there's still the cat food.
And is this they're gonna attack me?
No.
Oh, I was just I'm teasing you. The dog's gonna attack me. So this is the
Get out.
the scaffolding you're talking about.
Yeah, that's my. That's
Okay, so she comes up, jumps up, and goes right in.
Yep.
Okay. How many cats? You know what? You should have like a.
Now, see, I gave her the answer, and she dovetailed right into the answer. Okay. I.e., Summer jumped right up, went right in, and she goes, "Yep."
Zoo license.
Well, how does that correlate to the groceries?
You know, I'm seeing all kinds of
No.
of critters, which is good. Okay, where's Summer's bed?
Oh, it's in the basement.
Got it. Okay. So what happens when she comes in? The boys are playing where?
No, the boys are actually sitting here.
Okay.
Now, that's interesting because the boys, if we look at those original photographs of their room, it's much different right now, and it's just a couple of weeks later. So I started thinking about, I want to see clothing in relationship to Summer. Okay.
And they're actually sitting right here at the table watching TV.
Okay, so they're at the table.
Yeah, I come
Watching
in and get
TV.
'em.
Okay.
They were all locked in. Nobody could get in. Nobody could get out.
Okay.
Wow, stop. Did you hear that? They're all locked in. Nobody can get in. Nobody can get out. So I think we have to assume, based on what we just heard there, okay, that when she left in the morning, she locked them in. And that, I would assume, means the basement door is also locked. Right? Because remember at the water hole, she says, well, you know, they were basically awake sleeping, you know, kind of one of those things. So if they were sleeping and she's gone, i.e., to the adventure to the hospital with grandma, picking up Hunter, and, you know, it's kind of a spontaneous thing where.
So I want to point out what we're doing here. This guy has been talked his way into accessing other people to interview that were intimately involved in that last day that anybody knew where Summer was, to the point to where now, and he said just a short time later, he is talking to Candace Bly Wells, the mother who was there throughout the entire ordeal, reported it. And so we're not dealing again with somebody's opinion out here, even though he's interjecting a lot. He's pretty level-headed because he was an homicide investigator for a long time. But regardless of that, you're hearing what this woman's saying. You're seeing the property. You can kind of get a feel of what's going on here. And you did hear her say that nobody could get in, nobody could get out. Well, first thing I got to say is, how did she get in? The mother didn't let her in. That didn't add up. So there's a lot of things that just don't add up. And so even though he's interjecting things, don't be afraid to listen very, very carefully to this. Catherine?
I'm assuming that the boys let her in.
She didn't say that. If you watched when she was still outside, she stood back, or maybe you didn't see that part. It was in an earlier piece, I guess. I don't know. But she was outside and she stood back as she watched her daughter go into the house. And then she approached the window and talked to the boys who were sitting at the table playing a game. She just said that. It just don't add up to say the boys let her in. Something is not right. If the boys let her in, she sure missed saying that. And the way she approached it, if the boys had let her in, she had just said while she's standing there, hey, watch her. I got to take care of grandmother's brace. I'll be right back. But she waited till the daughter got in and then approached the house and through the window said, watch sis. I mean, that's what she said, not what I'm guessing was said. This was words out of her mouth.
You know, next thing you know, I'm not really sure, you know, if that's lining up for me. What say you? Right? Because these kids now, the boys, 3 boys, are at this house by themselves, locked in, nobody in, nobody out. And I'm going to play that back one more time so you can hear it again.
Wow. Wow. And who's the guy?
That's her ex-husband.
Wow.
I don't know why the dogs do it. They steal the cat food.
And is this they're going to attack me?
No.
Oh, I was just I'm teasing you. The dog's going to attack me. So this is the
Get out.
the scaffolding you're talking about.
Yeah, that's my. That's
Okay, so she comes up, jumps up, and goes right in.
Yep.
Okay. How many cats? You know what? You should have like a zoo license.
Okay, pay close attention to what she agreed to there. That Summer jumped up what she calls scaffolding and walked right in. So right there, she's kind of indicating the door is open. Nobody had to open it for her. That's what I'm getting out of that. But she changes, as he would say, the narrative just within a few seconds of that.
You know, I'm seeing all kinds of critters, which is good. Okay, where's Summer's bed?
Oh, it's in the basement.
Got it. Okay. So what happens when she comes in? The boys are playing where?
No, the boys are actually sitting here,
Okay.
and they're actually sitting right here at the table watching TV.
Okay. So they're at the table.
Okay, do you see her hat? See her move her hand to her hat? Okay, stress.
Yeah, I come
Watch
in
the
and get
TV.
'em.
Okay.
They were all locked in. Nobody could get in. Nobody could get out. Kind
Okay.
of thing.
They're all locked in. Nobody can get in. Nobody can get out.
Now, who's this on up here?
That statement was so profound, I shifted her focus quickly.
That's my little sister that's missing.
Oh, that's Rose.
That's Rosie.
Oh, wow. Wow. And who's the guy?
That's her ex-husband.
Wow. Do you think he had anything to do with that?
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, we don't want to go
I-
there.
Can't say.
How's
yes
your
or
mom
no.
deal with that?
It's difficult.
Yeah, I know. You know, I know, right? So, okay, watch.
Okay, Catherine, I think that was just addressing the ex-husband of the sister or aunt that came up missing, and we talked about that briefly. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's correct.
And he didn't pursue that any further because he asked directly, "Do you think that he had anything to do with that?" And what was her response just now?
I don't think so. Don't
Yeah.
want to talk about it, basically.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just taking a moment to digest some of the stuff we're hearing here because it hits home with some of the things you and I had already discussed.
Correct.
Okay, now on that table right there is where the looks like the orange soda bottle is located. And you can see as we get closer, I'm going to have to stop it real fast.
TV, where's Summer?
Summer, she was with me.
Okay, so
Okay. Remember the hat movement there? Okay. When I said, "Where's Summer?" she pauses like it's an afterthought. Summer? Oh, yeah, right? My mind. Oh, yeah, Summer. Oh, she was with me. Okay. So now, you see, that was a knuckleball because Summer went into the house. Okay. She went into the house. The boys are playing. Okay. And said, she says, "Come on, let's go get the groceries." Okay. And then I said, "Well, where's Summer?" Pause, thought, "Oh, yeah, Summer. Oh, she was with me." Okay. So she's filling some gaps here quickly. So she's able to adapt and improvise back to the street smart kind of game, okay, and potentially some manipulation, okay, rather rapidly, pretty rapidly. So I'm not buying you're going to guess my weight yet.
walk me through that.
All right. Well, we walked up in here and we got Josie, Wyatt, and Waylon, the boys.
Okay, so I now reversed her into the story. See if she can tell me the story backwards, i.e., I'm taking you back out of the house.
Right.
Well,
you put the groceries down, right?
Yeah. Well, we went back out and then we brought the groceries in and put them down.
Now, what was interesting there is she used the word "we." So that, right? That could be Summer.
And then Mom,
Or it could be the boys.
she went, took her stuff to her house, put her stuff away.
Okay.
And then, of course, me and Summer went back over, put our stuff away.
Okay.
So they get the groceries, go to Grandma's, put her stuff away, then they go back and put their groceries away, right? Well, what did the boys grab? What did the boys grab? Okay.
You went back in.
Yeah, me and Summer went back in the house.
There's the hat. See the hat? Every time she's not sure, in my opinion, that hat becomes important to watch.
And then we were just doing normal stuff.
See, she's thinking. She's thinking. She doesn't know what to say because she's running out of, maybe this guy's not buying our narrative, my narrative. Okay? So she's pausing, right? This is one of these situations where, we see it in the interview room with, this is consciousness of guilt. Okay? It's a sign of deception that when, I've said this many times where, you get these guys, they come in for an interview and they know they're going home, but they bring their friend. This would be one of the moments where she would have had somebody in the lobby, and I'll just, just say whoever, right? The guy sitting in the lobby, and this would be the moment where Candace would go, I don't, just like normal stuff, right? Things we always do, okay? But in this case, we're talking about her daughter gone, okay? Her daughter gone. So this emotional response here isn't even as heavy as it was at the waterhole. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to watch this really close here. And I'm moving her emotionally. And I threw a couple of curveballs at her, a couple of knuckleballs. This was a knuckle. Now, what she's doing with her hands wide open is she's convincing me that, well, I don't know, we just do this, right? So let's watch this whole interaction pretty closely again, and you're going to see it pretty quickly as I'm going to let it play through.
And then Mom, she took her stuff to her house, put her stuff away.
Okay.
And then, of course, me and Summer went back over, put our stuff away.
Okay.
Now, did you hear her use a convincing statement to me? Okay. And of course, me and Summer, okay. Well, okay, I didn't know, it had to be an of course. Okay. Well, of course it does. That's the narrative. Okay? That's the narrative. Let's see here. Okay, sorry about that. I got a text message.
You went back in.
Yeah, me and Summer went back in the house. And then we were just doing normal stuff.
Okay. That's a bingo card for 500. That is a lie. That is the first time I've thrown a bingo card on Candace. That, in my opinion, is a turning point in this investigation. This part of her narrative, listen to it again, is a huge bingo card for 500.
Wow. Wow. And who's the guy?
That's her ex-husband.
Wow. Do you think he had anything to do with that?
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, we don't want to go there.
Can't say.
How's
yes
your
or no.
mom?
I don't know. I can't say. Okay, I don't want to get distracted. I want to go back to that other point.
Deal with that?
It's difficult.
Yeah, I know. You know I know, right? So, okay, watching TV. Where's Summer?
Summer, she was with me.
Okay, so walk me through that.
All right, well, we walked up in here and we got Josie, Wyatt, and Waylon, the boys.
Right.
Well,
You put the groceries down, right?
Yeah, well, we went back out and then we brought the groceries in and put them down. And then Mom, she took her stuff to her house, put her stuff away.
Okay.
And then, of course, me and Summer went back over, put our stuff away.
Okay. You went back in.
Yeah, me and Summer went back in the house. And then we were just doing normal stuff.
Okay.
Around the house like we normally do.
So you'll notice when she said it also, she looks away from me. Okay? And she's not making eye contact with me at that point. She doesn't want to look at me. Okay? Because I think she knows that she's not telling the truth. And this was really, something that I caught early on, and I've been, trying to see what her behavior is, what's her baseline in relationship to, every time she starts to feel a little, heat. That hat is almost like a pressure cooker. It releases the thought process and gives her a chance to regroup.
And I come out, Mom was sitting there at the time I come out, and I'm standing here. I
Okay.
was like, what are you doing? What are you staring at? She's like, these plants, I gotta get them transplanted.
So grandma allegedly is more concerned with the flowers than putting her groceries away. Because as you heard here, they went in there, they unpacked them, I don't know how, I guess she could have done it in a couple less than a minute or two. I don't know. There are some pictures of grandma at the door looking out. When those were taken, I don't know, but I looked at the interior of that camper and some of those pictures online. Go take a look. That place is pretty disheveled.
I was like, well, Summer will help us. So I went back in. By that time, she was sitting on the floor playing with her toys.
Okay. My Karen says she was sitting on the floor. By that time, she was sitting on the floor playing with her toys. I thought I heard she was sitting on the porch playing with her toys. Because at some point, Candace goes back in and gets Summer, who was playing with her toys. So here's the question. Are those toys upstairs where she can play with them? Or are they where the boy said they were? She went downstairs to play with her toys in the basement. Okay, so yeah, so folks are hearing different things. So I thought I heard, porch. My sweetheart said no, she said floor. I said, okay. Either way, what was important about that conversation or that statement is if she is on the porch, she's outside with toys. If she's inside, she's on the floor in the kitchen area with toys. So why would she go down in the basement to play with her toys? Right here?
No, in the kitchen.
See, I even asked her right here because I thought I heard porch. And now she changes, says no, floor, the floor.
Where we were just at.
Okay.
She was actually sitting on the floor playing with the toys at that time. I said, Summer, you want to help plant flowers? And she jumped up, left her toys in us, of course. That's cool.
Okay, so she left her toys in there, jumped up. So now the next question I hear in my head is, all right, I've heard the story about her planting flowers and now Paw Patrol and all of that stuff. Okay. And so are these new toys? Different toys? Yeah. Floor or porch. Yeah, either one of them. But I think that and by the way, these are great statements. And if you're just joining us, thank you for being here. Please hit that subscribe button and share this video. But either way, we now have a conversation about Summer's toys, which melts right into where the narrative is. The boy said she went downstairs in the basement to play with toys. You tell me. Yeah,
Then we walked
that's
over
what kids
here.
do. It's their job.
What?
Okay. Get-
You'll notice her pace back over to the camper is somewhat reserved. And now remember, I'm paying attention to everything going on with her. I'm feeling it. I'm sensing it, and I'm watching her reactions where she's not just in her gait. She's not really quite sure, how this is going to play out here, in my opinion.
Over here, and we transplanted these cactuses from the little pots that they were in, and transplanted these ones here into this bigger pot, and that one into that bigger pot. And then she took the rocks that we've gotten from different gem mines when we went up to Gatlinburg and stuff,
Okay.
and she's the one that spreaded all the rocks around in here.
So this is where the Gatlinburg story is introduced, and that Summer takes those rocks. Apparently they must have gotten a bunch of rocks, because when we look inside, and that's why I showed that slide earlier, there's a lot of rocks in there. And I guess some of them could have come from Gatlinburg, but Grandma apparently bought or brought back a bunch of rocks from Gatlinburg, and those were the rocks that Summer put into the flower pots there around the cactus.
And then she put her puppies in here because she wanted Chase in there,
Okay.
That was cool.
Where are those puppies now?
What do you mean?
Oh, the little puppies,
The little,
her real ones.
yeah, these little.
Oh yeah, those little guys. Oh, that's Paw Patrol.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the police one.
Yep, that's Chase. He's always on the case.
Okay. Okay.
And we went
Oh,
in
I see
there.
another one over
Yep,
here.
She put him in there. Yep, you're on the cactus.
Okay. Don't take those out, okay?
No, I leave them right there.
I know.
And then we went in my mom's where we can't get in there.
Yeah,
It's all
that's
set.
fine. When
I have to ask a investigative question in my head, is why weren't those items collected if they're still there? This is, from an investigator's position, if these are some of the items the child was last playing with, then you'd want to collect that stuff. You'd want to collect that stuff for sure.
in
But
there.
we went in there and got some candy and stuff. She gets from grandma.
Okay, so it sounds like after the rocks are in place, she gets the candy.
Okay.
And I said, well, I'm going to go back over to the house.
She forgets the hand washing part.
She wanted to go back, so I said I'd go back,
So Summer wants to go back into the house. So she figures she would go back.
Okay.
And I brought her, I literally walked over to here. Like literally walked right to here where I could see the boys and on the kitchen table.
Got him.
And I watched her walk in there. And afterwards, when she was already in there, I walked over and said, "Quiet." And he looked at me and I said, "Watch Sissy, I'll be right back." And that's
Okay, so this is a really interesting, I think, part of this narrative that we've all broken down 1,000 times. This is the part where, okay, I'm going to watch for the hat, I'm thinking, because it's too scripted. Because when they first pulled up, she unbuckles her, Summer's on her way. Okay. In this, from the camper to the house, there's an escort. And there's a narrative to the boys. And that narrative is, to the oldest one, keep an eye on your sister. Okay. Why? If she's gone into the house like she did the first time, and she got those toys, well, where were those toys again? Are they in the basement? And if so, is that where she got them? Or maybe there's these toys, it's a red herring, right? It is a red herring. But here in this narrative, listen how specific or broken down the narrative gets here.
That's fine. Went in
So
there.
we went in there and got some candy and stuff she gets from grandma.
Okay.
And I said, well, I'm gonna go back over to the house. She wanted to go back, so I said I'd go back.
Okay, so you hear what she did? She just reversed it. Well, you know, I wanted to go into the house. She said she wanted to go in the house. So I wanted to go into the house. So what she did is it was Summer's idea, kind of hers, but because it's Summer's idea, we went back into the house.
You know,
Okay.
and I brought
Now see, she's thinking. She's thinking.
her. I literally walked over to.
And she's pointing to a specific area. She's pointing to a specific area to where she has a visual. Okay. Well, that's not normal behavior in relationship to how things unfold. Because what she's doing is she's, in my opinion, at this point, I'm not buying this. I'm not buying this at all. That this narrative at this part, I think this is where this whole story starts to fall apart.
Here, like literally walked right to here where I could see the boys and
See, she's taking me right to the exact spot to where she can look in and see the boys.
on the kitchen table.
Got him.
And I watched her walk in there. And afterwards, when she was already in there, I walked over like, quiet. And he looked at me and I said, watch Sissy, I'll be right back. And that's when I walked back over to my mom's.
Okay.
See, she's pointing. Okay. She wants me, to buy this soggy loaf of bread.
And I was fixing her brace and stuff like that. And I said, well, Mom, I got to go back over to.
So she walked back to her mom, okay, to fix her brace. Summer's behind her with the boys in the house.
Kids. And that's when I come back up into the house
Okay.
with the boys.
Okay.
I come back up into the house with the boys.
You walked into the house.
I walked into here. Get up. I walked in here and them three were sitting right here in front with their eyes glued to the TV, like always.
Hey, these are convincing, right? Outside, like this, okay? Over here, right, pointing. Yeah, this is where, and then I walked over to Grandma's trailer, okay? The brace thing, okay? And then I went back to the house, okay? And I got right to here, okay? And I could see, and they were here. You see how these are becoming narratives, okay? The hands are becoming a narrative.
Boys, where's your sister at? Well, she just went downstairs, Mom, to play. So I went over here like this. So this is where the stairs are.
Okay.
It's actually.
Now, notice the clothing in the background is no longer Summers from the original photographs early on. They've taken over those hanging lines there. It's pretty quick.
Down under there.
Oh, down into her.
Hey, now when I saw this, it would be an understatement for me to think, holy crap, look at this thing. Okay? Because I didn't really want to go down there. I wanted to go around, right? And I even say it,
Down into
Bedroom.
our bedroom, and then hers is on the other side.
Oh, okay. In the basement.
Yeah, in the basement.
Well, this makes sense now. See?
And then I yelled and I said, Summer, Summer. And she didn't. I listened for a minute. I didn't hear nothing. So I went like this. This is how I always get down here.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to come down here or not.
Do I got to be tiny to get in there?
No, you should.
Can we come in from the other side?
Well, we can, but it'd make more sense if you went this way.
Okay, I'll follow you.
Oh man. Good grief,
No, I know
girl.
if my 6-foot husband can fit down here, you can.
Huh?
My husband's 6 foot. I know if he can fit, you can.
This. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I got to be honest with you. When I went into there, as you can tell how dark it is, and it's dark. You know, whatever the smut going on the TV, you know, this is not a good environment. And I've hit on this on a couple of videos in the background, but you know, the fact that this little girl would have gone down into this basement by herself with this material on that TV. And I've heard different things, you know, Girls Gone Wild and all that stuff. And
Now, I've got to interject here that the girl's 5 years old, and if she has known nothing but this environment, she's going to think it normal. And I think he's wrong to assume that she wouldn't go down in the basement or that she would be uncomfortable in the basement. If she was born into this and it's all she knows, forget what's on TV. He's talking about it dark and gloomy down there. And you'll notice when I continue this, he goes on and on about that. But the porn or whatever, you can't really see it, but he suggests it's more than Girls Gone Wild. It's more like pornography. But again, 5-year-old, born into this situation. This is normal behavior. It's just like somebody being brought up in the
Correct.
Christian church. I'm sorry. They think it's normal. What? You have a comment, Kathy?
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
So I don't agree with every single assessment he makes.
I don't either.
You know, I think he's wrong on that end. I think he's mostly right, but I think, you know, I think he's, of course, you know, as an investigator, you're thinking everything, you're rethinking everything. So I'm not going to dog him out for it. I just happen to disagree with that. You're brought up in a certain environment. That's all you know. And you're only 5 years old. You're certainly not going to buck the system, and you're certainly not scared. If you're brought up and your dad had a pet snake and you handle the pet snake since you're a baby, you're not going to be afraid of snakes. If you were not around snakes and you're 5 years old, you might be scared of a snake. That make any sense? Huh?
It totally makes sense. It totally makes sense.
Yeah. So I kind of disagree with what he's talking about there, but let's continue on.
quite frankly, I didn't know.
I'm sorry.
I can give you an example of from me being a child that I could put myself in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
I visited my cousin's house. It was a dark, old, haunted house.
Mm-hmm.
He was not scared to go up the stairs. I was up through the dark.
Yeah.
He was comfortable with that environment. I was not.
Because he was raised in it. That's all he knew.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. You ready to continue?
I am ready to continue.
Even what that was, you know, call me old fashioned, but you know, I'm not naive. Okay, when somebody told me, but you know, the fact that a 5-year-old allegedly went into this basement with that material on to play with her toys. Yeah, right. Something's not right in River City, folks.
Way to go.
This is my husband's room.
Okay.
And over here, well, it's a mess.
Now, I was trying to take this in pretty quickly because for officer safety, you know, in my head, I'm still trained. I was assessing, you know, what the heck is going on, you know, in this arena here, because it became pretty quick. You know, it was pretty obvious this was no environment for any child, yet alone a 5-year-old child who allegedly goes down there to play and then suspiciously vanishes.
There's one other thing that struck me. He kind of rolled over it and didn't say a word. I've heard her say this more than once. I've been married. Catherine, you've been married. throughout this whole conversation, she never never refers to her husband by his name. I find that highly unusual. That's kind of a code. It's impersonal. My husband, my husband, my husband. Because normally, I know when Linda talked about me, she never said my husband. She may have, introduced me as such, but when you talked about Greg, you didn't go around my husband. You just said Greg, right?
Correct.
It may mean nothing, but I find it a little bit unusual to address your spouse that way, unless, well, it just seems different. How's that?
Right.
From this is the last contact site, what we would call this, where this child was, according to the parents.
That's all right.
But this is where Summer and little
There is
Waylon was.
one light
Because
in
Waylon's
the
only
very
5.
back
Okay.
And they
of
stay
that
down
room
here.
to the right.
And these are all her toys, all her Paw Patrols, all
All her movies. She's got a movie about the
The
Savior.
boys I brought back down here after
They
she went
brought
missing because
that
I didn't
from
want them
their church.
upstairs by themselves
Okay.
anymore.
And this is all
And
her toys.
Them are all,
See the
her
light?
toys. All these toys that are down here are dang are all hers, except for like the trucks and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and the game system. That's
I don't see many
But
toys
them are
there.
all her toys.
And she's really into Paw Patrol. I see
Yeah,
that.
I've been collecting from day one.
So, yeah, I mean, this whole environment is just atrocious. It is a dungeon. It's dark. It's damp.
I still think
Her
he's
bed's on the floor. Her dad's beds are just on the other side of the wall.
It may not be a good environment, but I
there's
don't think that
nothing
would preclude her
preventing,
being comfortable in that
you know,
environment if she grew up in it.
anything, any privacy on either side. It is, just, it's horrible. It's horrible. And it is, as I said early on, and I held this, close to my chest because I saw some things in here that I wanted to look at a
These are
little
all
bit
her
further.
little-
The fact that there is.
Did you say something?
No, I didn't.
I'm hearing things. Okay.
Well, I got to tell you something funny. I heard it sounded like drums beating,
Huh.
and back during one of the hurricanes last year before, whenever, got my roof, and I forgot that I'd gotten one of those nice new metal roofs, and it's never been so quiet that I could hear the rain hitting that metal roof.
And then we have the metal roof. Yeah.
I'm loving it.
Yeah. So the reality is, and we're coming down toward the end of this, but I don't, some of the things he's focused on may or may not be important, but I totally disagree with a 5-year-old being uncomfortable in those situations. Unless she's a totally rebellious little girl. This is all she knows. That land that's her domain. This is a girl that goes swimming at 5 years old, which that's pretty young to really, so I just disagree. If you, like you said, your friend at their house, I mean, if your parents, if you're raised in a funeral home and your parents are a funeral director and embalmer, you're going to be used to being around dead bodies. It's going to be totally different to you than it would be for somebody that's never been around that environment.
Correct.
And so that's the way I feel about that at 5 years old. So anyway, I'm just restating the fact that I kind of disagree with him on his focusing on that part so much.
A bunch of.
Go ahead.
Okay, I have friends that are my age that can't go to funerals, and even people older than me, because they never were exposed to that as children.
Mhm. Yeah.
I being exposed to it as a child now, when I was younger, did not have a problem with going to funerals. I now do not like to.
If you're in the Philippines, you're apt to sit at a table and eat your food with your fingers.
Correct.
If you're in Alabama, you're going to kind of probably be grossed out about that. If you're from Cuba and a couple of other island countries and parts of Europe, if you sit down on a toilet and you do your thing, you flush the toilet, and then you take your hand and dip it in the water and literally wash your butthole, most Americans in the United States are going to look at that and say, oh, but that is what they're trained to do. That's the way they clean themselves. So, like I said, I totally think that he's kind of offbeat with what he's saying there. It may not be the best environment to raise a little girl, but when he says that he don't believe the little girl would go down there and be comfortable, I think she was totally comfortable down there. The things I question is when I saw the video at 5 years old, this is all her toys, did not look like many toys to me. There were several, and then there were several things that brought my attention, but overall, I agree with Mr. McDonough's take. He is a investigator, but we're all human, and we have a right to view things a little bit differently. But the facts ultimately lead us to the answers. Yes.
Material up on the walls, covering the windows, reflection.
Say,
Obviously, that's good for heat. It's good to keep the sun out, but it's not good for the mental welfare of a 5-year-old who goes in to play with toys. And this is the everyday environment for this sweet little girl.
Ponies that I've bought, and then these are them girls that she likes. Them new fashion, I don't know what they are, little princesses or whatever. She's like all kinds of, here's one of them bracelets.
Oh, that's just one of them. What do they call these? Oh, this is a little pony bracelets.
Yeah, I don't know what they were really called.
I think my daughter at that moment didn't know what those were.
But she liked them, and so I just, every time I go to the garage sale, I'd buy her what she wanted.
Okay.
You know, whenever I got a little bit of money, I spend it on the kids.
Yeah, this is her. I understand her now.
Yeah.
Even better. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is really important.
But yeah, I come down and I searched. I looked up underneath the beds under there. We can't really get on. I can't get under there.
Yeah.
But I looked under there, looked under every blanket I could possibly look under.
Yep.
So that's her excuse and narrative that she fills in to how much searching she did that day. Okay. And, I'm sure the authorities have 1,000 pictures. And she wants to get out of there. She does not want me to focus into the bed, okay? Either of the beds, any of the beds. Okay? And obviously I'm not there, conducting an investigation. I'm trying to, just get a feel for the environment to help find Summer. And so, but she gets right through that door pretty quickly, and she does something interesting. She turns and she tells me, I'm not sure if this door was locked or open. And the reason for that is back early on, we had a conversation about, her getting jumped on because, they said it was, they didn't know if it was locked or they said it was locked. And so what she's doing here is she's going to qualify that statement one more time and put it on this video.
And then I come over here and I looked on one side of.
Now I saw that in the corner. I thought it was a weapon at first, but I couldn't tell because it was so dark. And to this day, I
don't recall if this was locked or not.
Right. Okay. See where she qualifies it pretty quickly. Let me back up here for 30 seconds.
Ponies that I've bought, and then these are them girls that she likes. Them new fashion, I don't know what they are, little princesses or whatever. She's like all kinds of, here's one of them bracelets.
Oh, that's just one of them. What do they call these? Oh, this is a little pony bracelets.
Yeah, I don't know what
Yeah.
they were really called, but she liked them, and so I just, every time I go to the garage sale, I'd buy her what she wanted.
Okay.
You know, whenever I got a little bit of money, I spend it on the kids.
Yeah, this is her. This is. I understand her now
Yeah,
even better. Thank you.
you're welcome.
This is really important.
But yeah, I come down and I searched, I looked.
And what I meant by that is all bets are off. I understand this child now, and this environment, cinched it for me. That this was a child who, heavy neglect, probably a lot of abuse. I've seen so much in my career that I can hear in her voice of, yeah, well, this is who she is. And I'm going, yeah, I've seen her before, many times. This is not where Summer was abducted in any way, shape, or form. I find it hard to think that she even went down there without being scared.
Well,
half the
I
day.
disagree with the second part, but I agree
Knowing
that
what
was
I know
not where
now
she was
about some of the
abducted,
other
but I don't
dynamics,
think she was scared.
I
to be
think
down
this
there,
would
unless she
also
was
be
being abused down there.
the worst place she would want to be. Remember, she's a quote outdoor, always wanted to be outdoors.
The
Always wanted to be
entire environment,
I can
that
see some of the
entire
rationale in
property
that statement.
is a negative
But
environment.
I
There's
still
trash
think
everywhere. It's unkept
that
property.
she never
it's
made it
disheveled.
into that basement.
And
I
that's
still
indoors
think
or
that
outdoors.
statement
He's
of her
focused on that
poise
basement real heavy and
playing in the kitchen, because of the darkness and this environment being so, problematic, I think it would be safer for her internally and emotionally to be more towards the light, i.e. kitchen, that area. Okay? I think that could be closer to the truth than this narrative of she just disappeared out of the basement.
Up underneath the beds under there. We can't really get on. I can't get under there.
Yeah, yeah.
But I looked under there, looked under every blanket I could possibly look under.
Yep.
And then I come over here and I looked on one side and see nowhere. And I don't recall if this was locked or not. I
Okay.
don't recall that.
Okay.
But I know
She's got to put that in the narrative, because there's got to be a way to get her out of that basement, according to, whatever the story is, right? And it fluctuates. I think we can all agree on that. Okay? But you notice she's unlocking it. This goes back to everybody in, nobody out. So the statement of she locked them in, she went first into that door, and now she's going out of this door, which is locked. And when she gets out, I've said this before, she's going to lock it again.
it's hard on her. But I know I did come out here and I said, Summer.
It's a
Because
deadbolt.
sometimes she'll sit right here and just sit here and play just for, And usually when she comes out and she goes directly that way up to the swing.
Oh, okay, so this is like her.
Yeah, she
Will
just
she
walks.
come?
Okay, now, this is interesting because, in my opinion, she's taken all of this time to point out all the things she did to get Summer into the house. Now, this is going to be read two separate ways, in my opinion, because if she says, and remember all the pointing, I stood here, I watched her go in, okay, I saw this, I said to the boys, keep an eye on Summer. There's almost this projection of, well, this is the way I do things. But in this scenario, Summer has the ability, because it's the basement, to basically control when she goes out and where she goes. She can go out that door, she turns and she goes right up that path into the swing. Well, that is total different behavior than what Candace just showed us 10 minutes, 15 minutes earlier. So that fits. Could Summer have come out of that kitchen on her own? Or was Summer never in the house at any time? Because apparently, if she goes out the basement, she's allowed to wander on her own. But if she's with her mother, if she is with her mother, she's controlled. Well, she's with her mother that day. She's with her mom that day.
Running out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you can see the
Here, so
path
just go
here.
right to the swing.
Right, you can see where she could have.
See, so Summer at some point was able to just run out that door, apparently, anytime she wanted onto that path, and everybody knew that's the direction she'd go and what she would do. But on this particular day, she disappears from that basement after being managed going into the house.
Run right up to
and this
here.
is all the further she would go. She wouldn't leave.
Okay.
She wouldn't go out nowhere else.
Okay. I want to go around this.
So nobody suggested she left. She just said it. She would never leave. Well, I didn't ask her. So that's an involuntary statement. That's a spontaneous statement. And watch what she does. She goes right back to the door and locks it.
Sorry, what is this blue thing here?
Oh, that was we were putting trash in it,
Okay.
and we did have a trash man at the time, but he stopped running.
There
Oh,
she
wow.
goes.
I gotta lock this.
Okay.
Go
I'll
lock
be. I'm gonna film around
That's a habit.
on this side.
Fine.
Now walk me through. What's this little
Oh, that right there?
little cave thing there?
That's not really a cave. Actually, we built this addition, me and Donnie and the kids,
Oh, okay.
and we left this part open because the dog at the time we did have little puppies. These dogs were little puppies,
Uh-huh.
and we let them go under there. They would run in and out of the bricks over there. There's actually 7 pups up under there now,
Okay.
and it's always been open like that.
All right, I'm going back up the property here. I'm pointing out a couple of things here. The vehicles obviously have been moved. Don's truck is up there.
Well, you can see after you've been here, you can see how mellow the dogs are.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, right?
That's what they do. They're
And
lazy.
they're kind of a Jack Russell. They got a little Jack
They're
Russell in
Jack
it.
Russell, yeah. Actually, the gentleman that lives over there in the other trailer across the creek actually has the mama to that dog there.
Mhm.
There's the door closed. Okay. Let me go through. Well, first of all, I'm going to open the comments up at the end of this. If I see
I'm stopping that. just to hear him restate everything we've heard there in his terms, I don't want to take the time to do that. Catherine, are you with us? Hello?
I'm here.
You're sleeping?
No.
He was that was the tour that she gave him, and other than that, he was that was it. He was just going to get into some comments he's responding to and different things. So that was what I thought was important, to hear her words as she explained this, and to get a good view of the property there. The main things I did agree with him on. I did not necessarily agree that the little girl would be scared to go into the basement. That's where she slept. That's where she lived. Her parents were down there. There was nothing but a wall to separate them. And he made a big deal out of some issues that as smart as he is, I don't think he understands everything. I had friends that lived 2 blocks from me growing up, and it was a couple that had 10 kids. And they had some interesting sleeping arrangements, and it's all they knew. And they didn't complain about it. And I mean, if mom and dad were engaged in activity, I would assume that most people in the house would have heard it. So it may not be the best way to raise a kid, but I'm going to suggest a kid 5 years old did not know any better. So anyway. Other than that, I'm sorry.
Here's the thing, back in the days, people used to live in one-room homes.
Yep. Yeah, the kids would be sleeping in the room with the parents. In the room with the parents, and lighting, they didn't have lights. When it was dark, it was dark because they were, number one, in those old days before we had electricity and all this ambient stuff going on in modern society. Keep in mind, they lit by little oil lamps and by candles, and it was very dim. And they didn't have a lot of windows because having too many windows would be dangerous. It would be access to predatory animals and whatnot.
Correct. That is correct.
So yeah, I think we both agree that and like I said though, but I agree. She wasn't abducted out of that house. She was not abducted off that property. When I saw the bird's eye view and everything else going on there, and then with all those dogs, I don't see it at all. I don't see any way in that short period of time that anybody abducted that child off of that property. Now, saying that, I don't know what happened to her, and neither, I assume, do the police, because they would have announced we found a body or whatever.
There's one story out there that she's in a well. I don't know where the story came from.
Yeah, I haven't heard that. Yeah.
So let's do the suspects. We also have, they're suspecting the Sunday school teacher.
The female.
The father. There's that. Correct.
Okay, so let's rephrase that. She did not have what they call a Sunday school teacher. They were Seventh-day Adventists, and they have Sabbath teachers. So just to be very, no, it's fine. It's a different way of wording it, but according to their belief system, that's what they were called. So I just thought I'd throw that in because every report I saw, it never said Sunday school, it said Sabbath. And to them, the Sabbath was on Saturday and Sunday. Just a little detail.
Their religion. But her Sabbath day teacher was also a suspect. They said there's a lot of strange things going on with her that need to be looked into. And some of these, I don't know. And these are things that I want to look into as far as these people go.
Go back to the interview we watched last night of the 15-year-old boy that was there with the family all day long. Okay?
Yes.
right up to probably within an hour or so of the girl coming up missing. His comment was he just pretty much blatantly said that he felt that her family had something to do with this. I've studied the history of the Sabbath school teacher thing. Um, I don't think she had anything to do with it. She, I mean, Seventh Day Adventists are kind of a different breed of people anyway, but watching and listening to the story the mother gives, just a personal opinion, can't prove it. Something's wrong with that mother. Something is way off kilter with the mother. The mother knows something. The mother was involved in something. The mother's covering up for something. That's why I asked, was it possible that the teenage boy that lived there had something to do? But they keep going back to that place where they swam earlier in the day. And, but again, I don't have the information that the police have or the TBI has. But something's wrong with the mother and her story. 190%.
Okay. Do you have the video of her going to the creek? Because we saw how she wasn't very emotional at the house.
Okay, so
and I, as a mother.
All right, so was she emotional at the creek?
Yes, that's what
The
I'm
mother,
asking.
I didn't know. I never saw that one. We just started digging into this like 3 nights ago, and
Well, I think it was part of that video that you skipped. It's done by that same guy.
yeah, but he has different. They're not combined into one.
Correct. I
He
know.
does different videos at different locations. Bottom line is, I'll say it again. Could something happen at that creek? Well, what I don't understand is if it had happened there were several eyewitnesses, and I have a hard time believing that everybody keep their mouth shut to protect somebody there. That teenage boy that we saw interviewed that was there at the creek, swimming, rode in the vehicle with him, explained the girl coming all the way to his front of his house, and that she was alive, she was alert. There was no indication she had any breathing problems. When he pulled her up out of the water, she'd only been there a few seconds, was not spitting out water or whatever. Now, I'm not a drowning expert. I admit that. But why, if it was a accidental death, why are we going to this extreme to cover stuff up? Why is the mother going to great lengths to cover up something that would have been an accidental death? I got an issue with this. The mother was not in the water with the little girl when that incident happened. She was talking to someone. I think her and the grandmother, her and somebody was talking about flower. I don't know what they were talking about. I can't remember. But they certainly wasn't focused on Summer and were not in the water with Summer. The teenage boy was watching Summer, okay? And he saw her go underwater, and he, in a Big Brother act, says, now this is just his story. I found him more credible than this woman, but his story was she went under, and just to make sure she was okay, he went in and pulled her up right away. And, okay, so if something happened there in that water, you've got how many people lying and covering it up?
4, 3.
It's not going to happen, because that boy admitted that he had not been to their house in a year, and he had not been in contact with any of those people since that time. Now what there's, I don't know. It's just very strange. I just don't see it happening to that degree. Somebody would have slipped up after this period of time out of 4 or 5 people, because somebody's going to have a heart and say, "Ooh, why would you cover up an accidental death?" I mean, they went from that swimming hole to the hospital to pick up grandma, so they were at a place where they could have got help if they needed it. So that you're saying they let the little girl die because there had been concerns about from the Child Protective Agency. So they let her die, and then they cover it up. I could see maybe Candace and her husband maybe doing something, but not with these other people that were with him all that time. I don't know. I'm just looking at it to try to figure out a very credible thing to look at. I just know that listening to that boy last night compared to listening to the mother, I put more weight in his statement than I do in anything she said today. First of all, you noted she said she wasn't sure if the door was locked or not. Yet she had started out saying that they couldn't get out, couldn't get in. And then when they left out of habit, she turned around and locked the door. Broad daylight, no kids there, right? Nobody to protect, but out of habit, she locked that door. And it was
But
locked when they went out.
before she left it open.
I'm sorry.
But in one of the
I understand
clips
she didn't. I
earlier,
understand she didn't
she
lock
had
it.
left the door open.
I understand she did not lock it immediately. I understand that. Now, I'm still saying they're saying that the girl had to disappear out of the basement door. That's what they're saying. They didn't, because she could see the front door. So, regardless of whether the front door was open or closed,
Correct.
the bottom door, the basement door, is the door that she's saying the girl would have had to gone out of. So anyway, no, you can't prove the door was locked. You can only look at it and say, well, she's got a habit of locking it. Now, the first question I've got is at 5 years old, I'm assuming the little girl could have unlocked the door herself. But then I backtrack and say, looking at the house and looking at the terrain and where the house is located, the environment there, I agree with him that I don't believe the girl was abducted from that property area. And then we got the explanation about the scent dogs and how they would have picked up her scent on that trail. Yep. The more we listen to this by people that have some ability and some experience, we're certainly learning a lot more. And I don't pay attention to just people's opinions out there on the internet. I'm looking for very reasonable, and then I don't even agree with them 100%. You got a cat.
That's Oreo.
Yeah.
She's now in my lap, clawing my leg.
So this is the second night of our looking into the case of the missing Summer Wells, who has been missing over a year now, a year and 4 months or so. I would say by now, I'm suggesting that by now, that the TBI, now wait a minute, here we got a comment from True Seeking Angel. I know there's a lot of bull online, but compare all of the pics put out of Summer with each other. I don't know what to make of it, but they already don't look like the same child. Well, the dramatic change in the hairstyle, I know that. Something is amiss. Something is very strange with the mother, and also some strange behavior with Don. And like I said, one of the things that jumped out at me tonight was that Candace never referred to him by his name. She always referred to him as my husband, which is very strange. If you're married and you're having just a conversation, you might refer to that person as your husband and wife to introduce them, but normally you're calling them by their name. Am I right or wrong?
I think it depends on the area, but yes.
Yeah, I don't think it depends much on the area. Personally, I've traveled a lot, and it's always been, oh, this is my husband Bob, and then from there on the conversation, Bob this, Bob that. Anything's possible. It is just a word, but it seems awkward. It seems not ordinary. The first thing again that caught my attention when I got tuned into this case was when the statement was made that she recognized that Summer was missing. She immediately used her phone to call Don, who was at work, and said, Don, Summer's missing. Get home now. And Don says, call 911. And she claims that she had to put down her phone and go to her mother's and use her mother's phone because she couldn't call 911 from her phone. That doesn't make any sense. I don't care if you have service on your phone or not. Your phone will call 911 as long as it's got juice. It don't have to even be an active phone. They're made to where you can always call 911. Her phone was active, according to her, because she was talking to her husband, Don, on the phone. So at one point in her narrative early on, she referred to him as Don. In her statements, in her written statements, I read that and it took me a minute to equate that Don was indeed her husband, not just a boyfriend. But then later on, as she's just a short period of time later, it's just my husband, my husband, my husband. What difference does that make? I don't know. It to me, it just reflects kind of an attitude of something. I don't know. It's less personal just to say my husband than to say Don. So I don't know. I can't answer it. I just have a lot of questions. And there's a lot of theory out there. Huh?
I understand. I have a lot of questions too.
I agree with him. I don't think that girl was anyway abducted out of that house or on that property. What happened between the time that Candace and her mother dropped that boy off at his home and whatnot? There's a big question there. I haven't heard it addressed. She claims that I guess they had groceries in the car when they got home, and she told that story in this interview. So anyway, it's an interesting case, but it's still, all this stuff does not answer where is Summer. That's the big question. Where is this little girl? Is she alive? If she was murdered, put to death, then where's her body? But there's no proof. Nothing has been shown that they found any evidence anywhere of foul play. Right now, there's just a lot of suspicion and picking this thing apart, and it kind of goes from there when you start dealing with conspiracy theories that's not backed up on fact. I can theorize on fact, but it just kind of gets thrown. A lot of people start throwing out theories and haven't studied the case in depth, and they just read somebody else's comment and then they embellish that comment, and it just kind of pyramids from there. And they'll say, well, I read so and so. It's like, well, where did you read it? So Truth Seeking Angel, they're still seeking the truth. If the TBI or any police agency up there in Johnson City, Tennessee has any clue as to what's going on, actually Rogersville, Tennessee, they're not showing their cards yet. And they could know something and waiting to accumulate enough evidence so they got a solid case to make arrests and charges. I don't know.
I don't know that, part of Don being in jail could be part of that investigation.
What?
To see what Candace does.
Yeah. What do you think of Candace? Why?
There's so many theories out there, but
Forget everybody's
not
theory.
emotional. Like
Okay.
a mother.
Just looking at that interview, and anytime you have seen or read her statements, not anybody else's interpretation or impression, your impression based on what you saw of her, not what you read somebody else or heard somebody else say about it.
I was going to. Okay. As a mother, walking through a house and your child was supposedly abducted from this house, the emotions and the overwhelming feeling of even being in that house would probably drive me crazy.
Okay, the only thing I'll interject there is I don't recall the mother or the father ever suggest that she was abducted. The terminology I've heard is that that was the last place she was seen and she vanished. And the suggestion I've heard is that she went down the dog trail and down to the street. So I haven't heard any Candace or her husband suggest in words that she was abducted from that property. Maybe I'm wrong, but I haven't heard it. But I'm with everybody else. I think that there's no way. Before I ever listened to that interview today, I'd already seen the aerial shots of the property and so forth. It's like I don't believe for 1 minute that she was abducted off of that property. But saying that does not answer where she is or what happened to her. You just, I guess, narrow it down. You want to dig into this further?
I would like to.
Well, tomorrow night's another night. We have been on again 2 hours and 20 minutes. And I have construction work going on at my house tomorrow that I got to be up and at 'em for. And I believe, how's your eye?
It's not very good.
Okay, I guess I'm getting to do. Well, we'll talk about that when we get off live here.
Alrighty.
So we're kind of evolving. Catherine Marie started this nightly thing. We have since 2019, the early part of the year, done a Tuesday night show with Kevin Kane, Catherine, and I consistently for all this time. In the last couple of 3 weeks, Catherine decided she wanted to start doing this every night. She's done spirit box sessions and tarot card reading. And then on a suggestion of one of our listeners, watchers, we got turned on to this case. What is that?
My phone.
Okay. So so we're kind of deciding how far and do we want to split up nights and that sort of thing. And we'll talk about that. But until then, I think Catherine says she still plans to do this tomorrow night.
I do.
9 o'clock. So thank you all. Make sure you subscribe. Hit the share button. Share this everywhere. Subscribe, follow, like, all the above. And this is a totally non-monetized channel. We're not making any money off of this. We haven't even tried to make money off of this. So, and you notice I'm not even trying to sell a book or anything here at this moment. I have in the past, but I'm not tonight. What's up? You see something interesting? Oh, wait a minute. You'll put that up there?
We got another.
As a mother who's lost a child, I doubt that I would have been able to have done the interview. I agree there. The way she handled the entire interview, and she was, I don't know, it just did not, it seemed surreal. Now, everybody's different. Just because you're not capable of doing something does not mean another person would act the same way. I've written a book, and I've got a copy over it. You can find it on Amazon.com. I've written several books, but about grief and loss and dealing with that sort of thing. We all deal with it differently. So just because, Truth Angel, you lost a child and you wouldn't have been able to do it. Okay, so she says that Don and Candace, and you're spelling her name wrong, have both stated they believe she was abducted, mostly while drunk on YouTube. I have not seen that. So if you send us a link to that, I'd like to see that interview of where they said that she was abducted. I'm talking about very early in the game, and which this last interview was done very early in the game. As time progressed, their story has changed somewhat, but originally they did not term it that way. Maybe they did later. I don't know. I don't know everything. I haven't seen everything. I just got turned on to this a couple of days ago. Other than that, You ready to say good night?
I'm ready to say good night. Good night,
Peace.
everyone.
Have a good night.